Chelsea Andrews. I work for After School HQ. The entire focus of our conversation today is actually not on our company, the company that I work for, but we like to bring in professionals from the out of school time, the after school time industry to be able to have youth providers talk to each other, to be able to have consultants speak to each other, to be able to have grant writers be able to offer resources. So we try to offer a space like this about once a month, and we bring in different professionals. This time we have Janice here with us today. So I do have a bio about her, but just a moment on After School HQ to know who brought us all into the room here together. We have two co-founders that worked in or that came from being in after school programs themselves as kids, as adults who have been involved in this space for a long time. They noticed that there was a lot of burnout in this industry. And as people who have been around this space, like I'm sure so many of you have been for a while, there's just a lot that you pick up on. So there was a tool that we ended up creating to be able to help out youth providers with the things that they observed through their own experiences. So one of the things that we want to help out with is making sure that communication with students and parents is more smooth. Again, we're an education technology platform. We're a tool that can help out. So we can help with communications, with text messages, emails, a lot of different ways to be able to help support there. We want to make sure that you and your team have a centralized tool so that as students are filling out registrations and you're doing all the logistical and administrative side of supporting your program, you can come in and have volunteers, parents, everybody be in one set place, so a centralized tool for you. We also want to make it easy for you to report the impact of your programming. When you do registrations, we can pick up socio-demographic data. We can say there is these students who live in this zip code who are being served, or we have this gender breakdown if there's a STEM program, or lots of the information that you are receiving while you're doing your program. We just want to make sure that when the program is done and you have all this awesome information, you can report it to donors and funders and report your impact. So that's After School HQ. We'll be able to drop a link later on if anybody wants to learn more about us as a company. We do also have, and this is me closing out here before I shift over into our bio, we do have a Facebook group. So Anna on my team, if you could drop a link to the Facebook group in the chat. We have this growing Facebook group. There's over 100 providers who are in there right now. And the goal for us is to be able to just have a space for you guys to be able to talk to each other, ask questions, peer support, and then we can provide resources to you. And so we do have this community space if you guys want to connect and plug in there as well. Janice, are you good if we, there we go, good. Spotlight you now. So I'm going to shift all of this energy as I've been speaking over to you. You had our CEO on recently. You and I have Zoomed a couple of times. So to me, you are a very familiar face. I know you and I have really high energy together. So I'm excited. I am going to highlight your bio. So just a couple more moments of me kind of speaking. And then I would love if you immediately after want to jump in and emphasize anything more or less or elaborate on yourself. But what I have about you is that Janice, we talked name pronunciation there too. Lee is an educator. She's an out of tools time program advocate. So even maybe some of these terms and words we can talk about later too. OST, out of school time, after school. Why do we use which language? What does that all mean? But you have over 2 decades of experience serving in public schools, nonprofit organizations. She has program techniques. She's been a consultant. She has or incorporates a lot of social emotional learning into her programming. So if anybody has questions about maybe incorporating that a little bit more too, we can talk about SEL. You have a development consulting business, school after hours consulting, but then you also have a podcast, which is how I first learned about you in school after hours. I'm sure so much will come out of that, but you've helped site directors, program providers, you focused on student engagement, fostering community amongst staff and students, operations, logistics. There's just so much in here
Yes.
that I'll hold. Hi, I'm so excited to have you. We're going to talk about social media, but hello first.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me. I'm greatly, greatly honored to be here, and I'm excited to see all of your names and some of your faces. So thank you for having me. This is great.
Absolutely, absolutely. You did prepare a bit for us today too. I think you were going to kind of take us down a journey on social media, some prowess there, some strategy. Did you kind of want to open it that way?
More definitely. So, for the first thing that I want to jump into is that I have this little poll that I want us to take with the link in the bio, but I also pull up my presentation at the same time so you all can QR code scan it. Um, and we can go from there. All right, here we go. So, for this wonderful webinar and this conversation that we're going to have about creating content for your program, go ahead and go ahead and scan this QR code. If you have your phone next to you, and a question will pop up, and it will go ahead and prompt you with further instructions. Okay. So, with that, it'll give me a little bit of data that I'm going to share with you in our presentation, right? So, the portion or the part that we're going to talk about in this presentation is, telling your story through social media and what that could look like. As programs are growing and social media is more of a marketing tool in the demand, it is a great tool to go ahead and boost and let people know about the great things that's going on in your program. And I feel like if don't jump into it at this point when it is popular and it's the thing that's never going to go away, I don't want us to be in the spaces where we're kind of falling behind, And it's a great discovery tool as well. I've interviewed some people, especially some students, and that's how they found out about youth programs in their area that they were not aware of. So look at it from a marketing standpoint, but also get to know you and what you are about for your program. That's also the key as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide over to the next slide. All right, so welcome. So we're going to be talking about the social media saga, how to use social media to tell your story. So the objective for me is to go ahead and have a conversation about social media, but also help you develop a content strategy that will help you in the process to spread the great news about what your program is doing. Okay. So we're going to have those conversations about program pillars. We're going to have that conversation about different types of content that you create and all those other wonderful things. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, before I show you the slide, let me go ahead and show you the results that we actually had. So give me a moment to pop out and then pop back in. All right. So based on our QR code, a good portion of you said other entertainment. So some of you are not social media fans, which is perfectly fine. It's okay, depending on who you have in the audience. But for the most part, Facebook is the top social media that is used for interaction and social media content, right? Then you have everything else that kind of falls underneath it. And going back to my slide, you'll see that as we go back into presentation. Right. So Facebook is the most popular platform for people to use at 3 billion users, 3 billion users, right? So that's a whole lot of people, and not just here in the US, but also around the world. So when you're creating content, that's something that you want to keep in mind. Who is around you, but also what platforms that are being used. And some of the different graphics that you want to keep in mind is, it could be some of the age groups. It could be, where young people, where older people, who's your audience that you're trying to get in touch with, where they may be using or engaging, how they may be engaging in that content. So these are just graphics to give you an idea. And this graphic is specifically giving you age groups, right? So you have, your teens that always have a phone in their hand, scrolling up and down and making TikTok videos. But it gives you an idea of by age group with this graphic, who's using what. And that's important to keep in mind. All right, so to give you a little bit more about me, on top of what has been told, I've been in youth development for just about 2 decades, going a little bit over, trying not to tell too much about my age. But it has been an awesome journey. And the reason how I started this journey is because originally I wanted to be a teacher. Right. But there was something else calling me in the space of education that didn't necessarily have to do with the classroom. So in exploration, I got a job at a youth development program and fell in love with it. Right. And it's just a place that I felt like that was good for me and something that I felt like I could have more of the impact that I wanted to among youth. So I went to John Tyler Community College here in Virginia, but also I graduated from Virginia State University. and continue to pursue my education from there. And that's how I ended up with my youth development consulting agency, School After Hours, which actually started from me making a podcast, believe it or not, during the pandemic when I was furloughed from my job. Had a whole lot of time on my hands, just needed something to do. So created this podcast and it put me in a good position to have various conversations about out of school time programming, how it's evolving and all those other things. But it also helped me identify a need that I saw within programs of planning, how to go ahead and help with staffing. And the number of other things and logistics that goes on in after school time programs. So it was a great opportunity for me to go ahead and do my consulting business, which is open and ready for service if you ever need me and want me to help. My shameless plug.
No, 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 not shameless at all. And I know we'll get more kind of like me and you banter here after a bit, but do you want to highlight like what are some of the services that you offer?
Yeah, so we do session planning. So as the school year goes about, you always have that time when you plan for your program. Some of that can be overwhelming, especially for your first and sometimes your returning second year site directors and program directors. So we kind of help with that process of okay, identifying your vision. What do you want it to look like? Then from there, go ahead and utilizing or thinking about the uh things that you want to teach, a specific skill, character development, all those things, and how does that play into your logistics of your program, hopefully cultivating your culture and producing a high quality program. We also do program management as well, where we come in and evaluate the program and then go ahead and help you make a plan for improvement depending on where you are. And we track that throughout the year, so that's a little bit more of a longer process. So we'll have specific meetings, we'll have benchmarks, we'll have all those things to help you get to where you want to go. And lastly is the whole development of programs. So we do program development. We will take your program from scratch and build it out for you and help you in the process of shopping it around to different organizations and different schools to see who's interested, and helping you in that process and getting to kids to, learn that specific skill wherever it may be.
I have more for you later. I'm taking notes as you speak, but I want you to be able to get through your presentation too, but I am taking notes as we go.
Oh, curriculum development as well. So if you have an idea and you just don't know where to land and where to plant yourself, God, we can sit down and have a conversation about it, and I'll help you go ahead and mark down the things that you need to do for developing your curriculum. All right. So the agenda for today, the benefits of using social media. So we're going to also talk about identifying your audience and the platform that you can use for creating your content. And then we're going to talk about content pillars, which is important because if you're going to be putting your stuff out there, what are you putting out there? So we're going to have that conversation. I'm also going to give you some resources that you can use to develop your content and make your content outside of Canva, because Canva is A1, as we know. But also, at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments, all those things, we'll have time for that too. So let's jump into it. So here is what are the benefits of using social media? Incorporating social media in your programming can do a number of things, but mostly it can help you with brand awareness for your program to give people a little bit more idea of who you are, how you make your impact, and who you are influencing. Then you have the engagement part of engaging investors. So if you have people that are wanting to donate their time, wanting to volunteer, and they may not know where to go, you can go ahead and pique their eye on social media and they can go ahead and lend their services or resources to you, or even donate to you financially if they feel that you are a cause that they want to go ahead and fund. And lastly, it could also fund or foster, let me say, community, right? So you have your students, you have your parents, you have community all together that you are making this major impact on. It's another way to keep people involved and give them a little veil behind, a view behind the veil to see what's going on behind the scenes in your program, sharing that information with them. So you can continue to gain that interest, but also hopefully engage and bring in more students at the same time, because that's who we're here to serve. So know that it is getting to people to know you on a personal level and using social media for your program. Now we're going to approach this framework from the 4 Ws. If you remember, go back into your memory to school. We're going to do the who, the what, the where, and the why, right? So the who is content related to who your audience is. And then if you know who they are, you can go into the what you should post, knowing what their interests are and how to make it relevant to what you want to do as far as your goals are concerned. Then where exactly do you want to post? Putting your information out there. What is the best platform for you? And last but not least, your why, being connected to the reason that you are doing what you are doing and why you're using social media for it. All right, so let's start with your who. So the question that I asked you is matter of fact, not what, who are you trying to create this content for, right? So in your mind is the goal to engage the community so you can get more students, you know, is the goal to go ahead and have a platform where your students can look at what may the next things may be for the following week. Because as we know, they're scrolling up and down. So who is your content being created for? Is it created for all of the above, for community, for family, and for students at the same time? So keep that in mind when you are choosing platform. Keep your audience demographics in mind. Age group, what ages that you're trying to target, social media platform, like what are the features on that social media platform that's best for you, but also the interests of your audience, right? So what are they interested in and how does that interest tie into the content that you want to create to get them engaged? So let's go ahead and look at the what. Okay. When you envision your program, close your eyes, think, you know, the best of the best of the best. When you envision your program, look at it from the perspective of a student, a staff member, and leadership. These are very important people that play a very important role in your program. So, in thinking about creating your content and wanting to highlight the great things that you're doing, right? Think of it from this standpoint and from this viewpoint. So with that being in mind, we're going to go do a little activity. So I hope you have a pen and paper. If you don't, this is your moment. Put your finger up, go grab a pen and your paper. Come on back. And we're going to do a small activity, right? So I want you to think of what are some of the great things that's happening within your program, whether you're on ground level, whether you're in funding, or whichever the case may be. This is definitely great for a selling point if you are in funding, because you have to have a story to tell, right? As you're trying to engage others. So we're going to do a brain dump. Based on those three perspectives, I want you to go ahead and make three columns. One column for students, one column for staff, and one column for leadership, right? So what we're going to do is think about those great things from this perspective. If I was a student participating in your program, what are some of the great things that happens, that I would want somebody to know about? If I was going to tell my friends, what are some of the great things that I would want to point out? If I was going to go ahead and tell, my parents, giving them the insight of the day, what are some of the great things that I would want to tell them about? Think about it from that standpoint, from a student's perspective. What great things would you want to share about this specific program? From a staff standpoint, right? That we know that we have high turnover, but we also have those people that are dedicated to the mission and dedicated to what you do for the program. So from their perspective, what are some of the great things that they want to highlight? Maybe they are appreciative that you focus on social emotional learning, right? And that you really incorporate that within the program. Highlight that. That's one of the things to highlight. But also from a leadership perspective, right? So as a leadership, there's somebody that's looking far out and beyond. What do you see that is great about your program that you will want to brag about? Okay. So in those perspectives, I want you to go ahead and do a quick brain dump. So there's a clock on here that says 5 minutes. We're not going to do it for 5 minutes. We're going to do it for 3. Oh, we got that kind of time. So we're going to go ahead and do it for 3 minutes. I'm going to start the clock. And when I say cheese, you can go ahead and do that brain dump. Okay. Cheese. Go ahead and start your process. And when it gets to 2, I'll go ahead and stop the clock. All right, we are getting close to our stopping point, you all. So if you at least have one down. Can I move this? Oh, okay, I couldn't move this. Okay, great.
You're good.
Okay. I was moving the little bar. I was like, it's blocking my time. All right, y'all. We are down to our 1 minute on the clock. 54, 53, 52, 51. Awesome, awesome. Now, for those of you that are close to done, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat for me, so I know that where you are in the process, being that we're closing up for this activity, not for the whole thing.
You can tell you were a teacher.
Does it show?
Affectionately said.
All right, our time is up, wonderful people. Go ahead and put a 2 in the chat for everyone, a 2 in the chat if you are close to done, if you at least did 1 column. If you were able to put a highlight down for at least 1 column, put a 2 in the chat for me. Awesome, thank you. I have a 2 in eyes. I appreciate you. 2, 2, 2. All right. So for my people that have their 2 in the chat, go ahead and give me one thing that a student could highlight about your program. Go ahead and put it in the chat for me. One thing that your student could highlight about your program. It is the best thing since sliced bread, and they want to tell any and everybody about it. So what is the one thing that a student could highlight about your program? Go ahead and put it in the chat for me. If you want to, you can go ahead and unmute your mic if that's okay. And you can shout it out. We can do popcorn answers, being that it's not a lot of us.
I would say how relatable the mentors that we have on our team are to the youth.
Yes, I love that answer. Relatability is very important. Okay, give me another one. Okay, learning new skills. That's right. That's what you're here for. After school programming, we get it done. All right, can I get one more? All right, joy. We love reading. Yes. They provide resources. Yep. That assist with self-sufficiency. See, I love it. I love these answers. Exactly. So you get it. So these are the things that the students will want to highlight within the program and things that you want to share on your social media to show all of these wonderful things, right? So we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm trying to be mindful of my time. All right. So that brings us to the content pillars. Yay! So content pillars, what are they exactly? For those of you that watch YouTube, you probably see content pillars pop up on your screen all the time. So I'm just going to give you a brief definition of it. So content pillars are specific categories and topics that you use to create content around, plain, simple, and to the point. So if, for example, if I was going to do a subject, right? And I wanted to create my content around after school programming, for my category, my most popular and specific category, one of them could be student engagement, right? Another one could be funding, because we all want to know where the money is going and if we need more. So those are some of the categories that I would go ahead and highlight within my creation for my content creation for after school programming. Another one could potentially be not just student engagement, but also staff engagement. Like, how are we keeping retention going in after school programming, right? What are we doing to keep more staff members on in our programs than letting them go or having them leave to find other careers. That's another conversation that we could have. So that would be a category for me to talk about within my program pillars. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and write it down. What I want you to do, another small activity, the teacher and me. Based on each perspective that we listed, based on the things that you've listed before in the last activity, I want you to go ahead and start creating your content pillars. And I'll give you an example outside of the ones that I shown. So this is just a content table that I had. And my program's name is School After Hours, teaching podcasting. Let's go with it. Sure. My content pillars would be software and equipment, because you got to know what you're using, right? Another one would be the production process. What does that look like for students? Because it may be a little bit different for us adults than it would be for the kids. What is that going to look like? Another category would be like student activity, like how are they engaging in the class and how am I capturing that, And then the last one would be like program events. You got to do your events, right? To show what you're doing, how you're influencing, but also show the skills that the kids are getting at the same time. So that would be another category for me. And underneath it in the black would be the topics. So you would want to list as many topics as you possibly can related to that specific category. So for example, the equipment and software, what kind of equipment would I use for beginners? Am I going to give them this $1,000 lens and camera, or are we going to go start with something that's like a little bit closer to 200, in case it breaks? They need to know how to use these settings. So, what equipment is appropriate to start with the beginners, you know what I mean? And then the next one would be for equipment software. For another example is how to choose your hosting site for your podcast. So which one is available to you and which one do you think is best for what you're trying to create? And having those conversations, what that look like. So this would be my example of a content table. So I kind of want you to make your own content table based on the things that you listed in the previous chart that we did together. Okay. So once again, this clock is alive. We're not going to do it for 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and give you all about one and just focus on one category. Okay. So some of you already done your students. So under your students, go ahead and do a topic based on what you shared. Go ahead and list the topics underneath that category. All right. So when I say cheese, we'll go ahead and start. And for this one, we'll do shorter. We'll do it for like a minute because I know that we're short on time. All right. Cheese. Did this clock start? Oh, no. I apologize, y'all. I'll
You're
move
good.
this down to 1 minute. There we go. Ooh. All right. 10 seconds left, y'all. Go ahead and wrap it up. All right. So that brings us to 0. All right. So, so in the chat, go ahead and share one topic that you would highlight on your social media. One topic you would highlight on your social media. You can go ahead and put it in the chat, or you can unmute.
I would probably put mental health.
That's a good one. That is definitely a good one. Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, so we're gonna hold on to that mental health one because this video, well, let me go here. So thank you for sharing with the mental health because that is very important. And there's different ways that you could do that one. You can do that one through a behind the scenes journey when we talk about topics for content, which I have listed here. Program difficulties, which I have listed here. So you could do that in a sense of doing behind the scenes footage, how you all are working on your mental health as a program, you know, some of the activities that you are doing to work on mental health, but also you could go ahead and share testimonials about mental health, how participating in some of the activities has helped your students. And you could have students do like small mini interviews, you know, as well as staff, because staff participate in something like that too. You could also do a tutorial, maybe behind the scenes, you're working on putting together a series for mental health, who knows, a series of lessons for them, right? So that might be your, how did you and why did you pick the specific topics for mental health? Maybe it's something being more self-aware. Maybe it's something being building confidence. So what are the activities that you're picking behind the scenes that go ahead and supports their mental health? And then you also have things for like entertainment, some of the fun things and fun activities that you do as not just staff members, but also with the students that shows how mental health is being enriched at your site. And to give you an example, I have a video that I made for the podcast. We were going to a site, to give you background information, we were going to a specific site to do a program highlight. And basically that's just a tour of the program to let the community know like what the best things that are happening in this program and what kind of impact they're making on their students. So here is our kind of behind the scenes of that visit. Hold on, let me start from again. So in this specific reel for Instagram, we did a poll first to have the audience guess or our followers guess like what school we were going to go visit and do our program highlight with, just to gain some interest. And then from there, we followed it throughout with behind the scenes stuff that we did while we was there. Talking to the principal, touring the school, seeing programs, all those other wonderful things. But also getting capturing the art, as you saw, that's around the school that kind of helps foster that culture that was there. So, and it also gave them an idea of what to look for moving forward from us when we actually launch and show the program and what they're all about. So where should you post? When you're posting, keep in mind and to keep into consideration all of the features that is going to be with the program that that's going to be with the platform that you're using for your social media, but also make some content goals. Know what you want your content to do. Do you want it to go ahead and increase followers on that social media platform? Do you want to have more engagement, to have people participate in the events that you're going to be hosting at your site? All of those wonderful things will also have a metric that you can use to measure that. So it may be something like a survey of asking people, how'd you learn about us? Oh, from your social media page. Awesome. So that's for, you know, that it's working. Things like that. Find a way to have a metric for your goals. But also remember, like I said, use and think about the features that you want your platform to have when you're posting your content. So we're close to the end. I just wanted to give you a quick little layout of when you're making your content, go ahead and schedule time to make that content, right? Because that's important. And be honest with yourself. Consistency is important. I know you hear the words of, you should post every day. We have jobs, we have children, we have families. We are not trying to post every day. I need to be a little bit more realistic. So do what works for you in your planning. If you can only plan to post maybe twice, at most 3 days a week, that's perfectly fine. Why? Because that's what suits you and that's what you can do at the time. So beneath that, I went ahead and listed 3 of the most popular and most used platforms and the best time to post. You don't have to post at all 3 times. Like I said, we got things to do. So choose the time that is best for you, right? And then also below is some resources that you can use. Like I said, Canva is the best because it's all encompassing and it does all the things. If you pay for the pro platform, it also gives you a content scheduler. So you can link your social media platform to Canva and then just schedule it. And when the date comes and the time comes, it'll just upload it for you, right? So that is always helpful. Then you have editing software that you can use to kind of create and edit your things. Adobe Express is one of them. Also for your video content, there is CapCut and InShot. The good thing about this is both of these are desktop friendly or laptop friendly. So you could download them and then download them also to your phone and use them that way. So you could move your stuff from your phone onto your laptop, edit it and do whatever you want to do with it. And then you could repost it that way, right? And then last but not least is your content schedulers. So you have Metrical, you have Later, and you have Planly. I've used these, they're all great. For Later and Planly, you might want to get a business plan because it just works a little bit better that way and you're able to go directly to your platforms and post it that way. Metrical is free. It does not cost you a nickel, corner, penny, and dime, and I love it. And it's what I'm using now to monitor my social media platform, but also my YouTube as well. Oh, and last but not least, you're keeping in mind your why. So some of the things to think about is the purpose for your content. Why are you creating this content and what you wanted to do? Keeping in mind your goals and how to measure them using the metrics that we discussed. What do you need to put in place to accomplish these things? So one of the things I mentioned is doing a content calendar, but also planning out time to make sure that you're able to stay consistent in doing what you're doing. But also, how do you get students involved? How do you get your staff involved? Make them part of the process. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Like I said, kids love a camera, some of them. So go ahead and create a little crew, of your content creators so they can go ahead and capture those things. You can all work together and they could come into the fold of creating content for the after school program. Well, that is everything that I have. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully it was enjoyable. Hopefully I was not confusing in the process of explaining. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, this is that moment. If anyone has any questions, you can unmute or put your questions in the chat.
Mhm. I've been getting some sideline messages from people too, being like, "Hey, I'm working on something, but I'm here and I'm listening, and this is great." So, naming them, I see that for people that are DMing me too.
Awesome.
I still have some questions that I have for Janice too. So, I don't know if we're wrapping up quite yet, but does anybody have anything related to social media, any of the platforms, big picture vision, anything that you want to ask first?
What's your favorite platform to leverage as of yet when it comes to creating your content?
When it comes to grading my content, hands down Instagram, because it has so many features that you can use. One of the things that I'm leading back into is doing my lives, and that's great for promotional things for me when it comes to like going into planning season, because now we're going into summer planning, right? So I'm doing a series on my Instagram live on Wednesdays at 12 o'clock, and it's just breaking down simple steps, some things that you need to keep in mind as you're planning and getting ready for that process. But also the level of variety that it offers you. So I find it to be like the best platform for me.
Okay. Well, I'm curious if we see a question come in, we can always shift back, but I kind of want to shift the conversation to your podcast.
Mhm.
Oh, a hand that was raised.
Yes.
Laura, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, please correct me, but would you like to ask a question?
Yes, Isaura. Thank you. This is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm a mature woman. a leader, a programmer in training young women in the new leadership. And this is so on time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm happy you enjoyed.
Eunice, you are really good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So hopefully I gave you a good portion of the tips that I learned the hard way.
Yes, yes.
So
I look
hopefully it
forward
served you well.
for the recording, but would you mind to share your social media pages here, or maybe we can receive by email? Would you like to
Yeah,
follow?
sure. So on all platforms, I am School After Hours. So SchoolAfterHours. So Facebook, Instagram. I am not on TikTok. I can't do it. I'm not there yet in my life. But also we do have a LinkedIn page at the same time that we also post our stuff on too. So all social media platforms, School After Hours.
Okay, okay. Another question: do you offer consulting service to a specific program if you have a chance to hire you?
Yes, we do. So we do one-on-ones. And part of the planning process is also going over social media strategy. So anyone that I sit down with, we kind of create a plan for them at the same time when it comes to that as well. So, and just planning in general, like your logistics, what it's going to look like, how you're going to interact with your students, the lessons and everything that you want to go over, depending on what your overall objective for the year is and your goals. So yes, we do one-on-ones for site directors and programs. We also do group trainings if you have a large affiliate and you're trying to sit everybody else to plan, because that's another thing, another conversation I was having with someone as well. If you want to sit all your directors down and we all do a planning session together through workshops, we also do that as well.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Awesome. Okay. Can I have you stop sharing your screen,
Yes.
please? Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I want you to kind of jump in. I'm looking at time, so maybe 5 minutes-ish or so. But I do think that the story around your podcast, at least from what I've heard, is very, very interesting. And I think some of the providers here might resonate with it. So
Mhm.
I can prompt you more if needed. But could you kind of give us a background around why you decided to have to host the podcast and start it?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So like I said, I was working for a new after school program and then the pandemic hit. So, we all went home for that moment of time, thinking it was only going to be about 2 weeks, 3 at the most, we'll be back into session. It so did not happen that way. And I found myself being furloughed from my job. So I had a lot of time on my hands and I needed something to do. But also I was just hearing a lot of conversations around after school programming. And the one that did it for me was reading an article basically saying that after school programming might not survive because so many kids are not in school settings. With the way the pandemic goes, we might not be going outside for a while. So, after school programming is in a very devastating state. And it might not make it. So me in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if that's true. You a whole lot. So I started having conversations with, organizations and site directors that I knew that I built the relationships with over time to see what they were doing and how they were adapting to this new situation. And I heard great ideas about different innovations that were taking place, more people using online services to have programming and getting, parents involved in programming instead of having them to come to one location. They're now having like these group settings virtually. And I was like, this would be a great opportunity to kind of share this information and kind of make a hub for, sharing this stuff and have it be a resource. So that's how I started the podcast School After Hours, available on all podcasting platforms.
Are there any episodes that you have done recently where you're like, this program was extremely innovative, or this person was particularly powerful, or if we were going to jump over and explore your library, where might you direct us?
Ooh, so there are libraries that playlists that I'm creating, but I believe the one that sticks with me the most is the entrepreneurship series of after school time programming. No one really talks about after school time programming from the provider's perspective, right? So we created this series, and it's available on YouTube, our YouTube channel, where we talk to different program providers and see how they've been able to start their organizations, come back from the pandemic, restart their stuff, but also expand at the same time. So I think that is one of my best series that we have. And then our foundational series that we started in our second season. And that's just giving you the basics of out of school time programming and the things that you need to know.
Okay. So if someone finds this recording, finds you, and they hear, wow, you're a podcaster and you highlight the stories of these people who do after school programming, like what if somebody wants to be on your podcast? How do they reach out to you? Is it an invite only situation? Like what are we dealing with here?
So we go through a whole process. So there's always the inquiry portion. You know, if you follow me on Instagram, I have a inquiry form that you go ahead and fill out. So we'll reach out to you and just have a basic conversation to see, you know, what your program is, what it's doing, and how it's impacting the community. And through that conversation, it'll give me an idea of where, you know, we're thumbs up and we're good to go, or we like, hell no. But the programs that have contacted me, they have been very high quality programs, and I'm so happy that I've been able to share their stories on our platform.
Amazing. I know Daria, our CEO, he just did one with you. So maybe in the follow-up where we include this recording to everybody, I might drag or pull that link in so that people can jump over there too.
Yeah.
I know that was recent, so that just came to my mind. I did get a question that was sent to me directly about your background. So this person wants to know about your academic background. Did you go to formal school or to a program to get the skills that you have, or are you entirely self-taught?
So for me, it was a blend. So I went, like I said, I originally went to college to do teaching. And then in transferring over to youth development well, it's called community-based education. But it does have a portion in it for youth development. So that's how I started my process of learning a little bit more about it in combination with education. So then I went on to, you know, pursue different certifications and different things based on continuing education. So North Carolina online classes for their youth development is really good. I'd strongly suggest them if you want to continue with that path. But there's also other ones available to you as well. So, and then it's also like your experience over time, because what you know in the classroom or what you learn in the classroom, if you and I both know, is not always the things that are executed, you know, on the floor. You gotta learn how to improvise, you gotta learn how to pivot, you know, and all those other wonderful things. So it's a combination of both of personal experience, but also academics as well.
Okay. I have maybe a last question for you. Before I ask, Anna on my team, can you drop in the chat the Facebook group link? Again, we just have this Facebook group for people to be able to jump in, support each other, ask questions. Janice, if you want in, no pressure, but you're more than welcome there too. I'll get it to you in a follow-up email.
Sure.
But we do have that hangout space for everyone. And then we'll be sending a follow-up link. So if anybody wants to contact you, they can reach out to you and we'll have the recording go out and all of that. But it sounds like you have a lot of moving pieces.
Mhm.
So what are you like looking towards? Like, is there a certain business accomplishment or a program that you're personally finishing, or what's on the horizon that you're excited about?
So what I'm excited about going into now the program provider space, I've had a client that has done very well, and he started with just working in one school. Now he's expanded and he's gone to 3 middle schools. So I'm really excited about that. But also me personally going back into the after school programming space. I'm working on a contract right now with an after school program for a school. And we're building out their curriculum for what they want to do, because their students want to create their own podcast. Power of podcasting, right? So we're working on that, and I'm really, really excited about that venture.
I literally, when you said that, my mouth dropped. I was like, oh, I love that you're doing that.
Oh, I know, right?
I love that you're doing that. Okay. I feel like every time that we do one of these webinars, I connect with someone else who has a really cool program or has this innovative way to view something that I wouldn't think of. So you being a podcaster, helping some kids do podcasts, the worlds are aligning. Okay. So your podcast is called School After Hours. Your
Mhm.
consulting company to help out in the out of school time space is School After Hours. We'll send all of your follow-up information. So the people who are here, people who are getting this follow-up recording, they have you as a resource. They can reach out to you. We're also here. We do about one of these webinars a month is kind of the pace we've been going. And again, for the people that came on afterwards, I won't go through the whole thing. But After School HQ that hosted the conversation, we're a tool, we're a platform to help youth providers to be able to report data, communicate with parents, handle the registrations and everything, put it for teams in one spot for you. So to learn more about us, you can look up us up online, we're After School HQ. And I'm so excited for everyone who is here. We are going to finish off. So as people kind of trickle out, if anybody wants to end our time together with any questions, we can do that. But Olivia, if you want to stop the recording, we can make sure we get it out to everybody. Thank you again, Janice.
You're welcome. Great to be here, y'all.